Welcome, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to another LeoStream podcast. I'm very excited this time to be joined by Kevin Greenway, the CTO at 10zig. Kevin, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me here, Karen. I'm really excited to be joining you today. Thank you.
Oh, well, we're excited to have you. And the LeoStream 10zig relationship goes back quite a ways. I actually searched through my email to see when it started, and it was in April of 2009, which was actually when your company rebranded from Bossa Nova to 10zig. So going way back since the beginning of the brand. And actually, we attended VMworld back then, and demoed a 10zig thin client in the LeoStream booth. So it's been going on for quite some time. We're really excited about it. And obviously now there's all sorts of new things that are going on in the industry that we want to talk about, particularly around the HP Anywhere end of life that is on top of mind everywhere. So since the end of life announcement, what kind of conversations have you been having with customers?
Well, yeah, actually, very, very interesting. I mean, so we have been a partner with HP Anywhere and Teradici before it for a number of years, and certainly opened our eyes up to with regards to the conversations that we have had, and what we are seeing is that customers are kind of looking actually for guidance and not necessarily just a replacement for what was HP Anywhere. And I think as we found along the journey so far, there isn't necessarily just an obvious answer for every organization, and that's because it's split into different things. We have a situation where every environment has slightly different requirements and different verticals, of course. And the announcement really gave customers a chance and encouraged them to look beyond what they had always used by speaking to us as an example, and yourself as well, Karen. So yeah, a very sort of interesting time that we're in right now.
Right. And I know it's opened up, at least for us, and I'm sure for you, a lot of new opportunities and probably some new industries. So are you actually branching into some new verticals after as part of this?
Yes, we are. And it kind of took us by surprise. So I'm not suggesting that HP Anywhere was restricted to M&E or media and entertainment, but by any means. But certainly some of the conversations we have had with those types of customers, and even some of the alternatives the alternative vendors that we've started to have discussions with, it's really opened our eyes up to the fact that those solutions or equivalent solutions play into other segments. So some of the other segments that we have come across have been like gas and oil, manufacturing, sort of scientific type scenarios where we have either scientists or engineers who want to look at data. But I think the thing that collectively bundles them together and is kind of shared with what the HP Anywhere solution partly delivered is essentially the ability to be able to deal with GPU intensive remoting environments where you've got either a physical or a virtual machine in a remote location, and to be able to deliver that graphical data in some form to remote locations. And I think what we're starting to see is that organizations are realizing that these technologies, all of them, can go well to solving problems, even beyond the traditional HP Anywhere use cases. So yeah, it has been really interesting, and it's not just a like-for-like replacement that we're looking at, but an overall all-encompassing sort of bigger perspective thing at play.
Right. And so it's some organizations migrating. It's probably some greenfield organizations out there as well as you look at integrating with these other technologies. So tell me that there are a number of other high performance display protocols out there on the market. What's been your approach when you've been deciding on which ones to invest in? What have you been looking at?
So our approach, as we always do, I think one of the things that we always do at 10zig is we don't just take things for granted or assume things. We ultimately listen to our customers and listen to the audience. And again, I think that's one of the things that has surprised us, that where we initially thought that there might have been some almost immediate go-to solutions that those customers would have gone to, whether it be existing or greenfield, But yeah, certainly the thing that we have noticed is that there's actually a much wider play of alternative solutions, and certainly I think the three that have stood out most so far have been not in any particular order, but we've seen Amazon DCV, we've seen Metdyne TGX, and we've also seen HP RGS come into play. And certainly our approach is, whilst we do offer thin clients that are Windows, IoT, and Linux based, one of the things that we look at primarily is what each of those kind of requested solutions looks at from a Linux perspective, because ultimately that's where Tenzig can offer the best value in terms of our overall ability to support the Linux client. So that's been certainly an approach that we've used. And another approach that we've also used is looking at what the overall user experience is like, and not just from a solution perspective, but how it marries up against, say, if you paired it with just a traditional PC or a laptop against a Tenzig thin client. And then, of course, it's the integration opportunity. So what does that opportunity look like, and what is it like to work with these other vendors together, and importantly together with yourself, Karen, with LeoStream, of course, to make sure that we have a complete end-to-end perspective. So yeah, they're definitely some of the common approaches that we've used in this journey so far.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and those are definitely the top three that we've heard come up, as well as some others. But those are the big three, as you might say. So if
Nice.
someone
So good
does
to see we're aligned.
yeah, we have been since 2009. If someone was to come to you and ask, if they're evaluating the alternatives, what would your advice be to them as they look at these different solutions?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it comes down to really a few things. I think importantly, the protocol and the codecs that are in use by the solutions really are important and come into play. And again, that applies to both greenfield and existing scenarios, because of course, ultimately, when we're dealing with graphic intensive remote workloads, it's important that, again, the user experience and the way that we deliver those graphics through the various protocols and codecs on offer are delivered, with good user experience in mind. And a key thing that we do in the evaluation that might be different to, say, again, if you're using a traditional PC or a laptop, is ensuring that the protocol and codec that's used by any one solution can ultimately be optimized. So when we talk about delivering it through a thin client, we haven't got necessarily the same processing capabilities that we would have on a PC or a laptop. But what does come into play and really helps provide advantage is the fact that we do offer hardware acceleration together and jointly. And the good news is that each of these solutions that we're looking at does offer hardware acceleration, so we can offer that really good experience. And again, the thing that makes up those three is the fact that they are based on almost industry standard protocols, which make, again, the performance really stand out from a performance perspective. I touched on it just before, but with our emphasis on Linux support, the other thing that again is really important is looking and recognizing what the general user experience is like, and especially from a Linux client perspective versus perhaps other OS models such as Windows or Mac. Mm-hmm. And our approach is that we always, we want to always ideally provide a persistent, but in reality, if not better experience, based on the fact that we have the ability to fine tune and optimize that experience from our operating system, based on the fact that we can integrate that into our OS, and again work with the vendors to see what we can do to optimize that as well as we can. And even down to sort of like the general workflow, where we can automate certain things that happen during the workflow. And from a security perspective, of course, if the user's requirement is just to log into that remoting solution, we want to make that experience seamless. So all of those things really come into play so that we can provide ultimately a better login and experience for the users, and also a good management and security perspective from the IT team's perspective. What we do find is, different customer requirements happen all over the place. So they ultimately lead to different decisions being made. And so, performance is one consideration, but then you've got the other requirements that then come into play as well. And, some examples of those that we can mention that, again, impact decisions and things come into play with things like whatever infrastructure the customer might have, what type of workloads they're dealing with, whether they're more suited to perhaps, one of those three solutions that I called out versus the other. And of course, the endpoint requirements, depending on how many monitors the users might require, or how many USB ports they might require, and even down to what types of USB peripherals come into play. So yeah, so again, they're all the things that we sort of factored in during the evaluation. And I guess there isn't the thing that kind of stands out here is there isn't necessarily a clear winner. And I think the market's changing as such that customers are willing and prepared to look at each of those three solutions and beyond to really make the decision that suits them best based on the criteria that I've called out in that question. So
right. And there was one thing that really stood out to me as very valuable too, which it was subtle, but you mentioned that you've taken a lot of time to kind of look at how do we fine tune these different clients so that they connect in the way that optimizes the performance. And that's one thing that we see when we work with people on POCs is there's a lot of things that you can tweak to make your experience be the best it is. And knowing how to do that and where those settings are can be complicated. And if you can provide an out of the box solution that does that, that really can simplify building up an environment. So
yeah, definitely.
I like that message.
Definitely. Yeah, no, you've hit the point home there for sure. And that's one of the beaut spots of the thin client, especially from a Linux perspective, that you can make it very much turnkey, that everything is already deployed, ready to go, and it's just a case of steering, a simple set of options to automate the everyday practice of enabling users login and connectivity, whether that's locally at the endpoint or through the management tool that's all encompassing. So yeah, a very, very good point, Karen.
Awesome. Well, you've been talking in broad terms of Linux, but let's give it a name. This is your PeakOS solution that you have that is part of your offering, correct?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about how that, I know you've talked a lot about it so far, but is there any other special sauce that you can share about PeakOS?
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. It's so PeakOS and the Linux operating system in general has gone through quite the journey, and it actually started even before COVID. And I hate to always use COVID in these kind of recordings, but unfortunately, it still does come into play in terms of how things have changed along the path to where we are today in 2026. But to get to the point, PeakOS is designed with ultimately flexibility in mind. And it's also designed to be as closely aligned to Ubuntu as it is. And the reason that we took that approach is that, our partners, including yourself, Karen, any client executables and binaries and packages that we take and import into PeakOS are ultimately delivered, in most cases, with Ubuntu in mind. So that enables us to be really responsive, really ultimately to give us the greatest flexibility that we can keep pace with things as both clients evolve and as new client and technology emerge in the market. So, that's one real benefit of PeakOS, the flexibility. The other benefit that you have is the way that you can deliver the login and the general user experience workflow in a variety of different modalities to make it really easy for both users and administrators. And I've already touched on it, but the thing that really pairs it together really nicely is the inclusive and free endpoint management that's included as well with Tenzig Manager. So we now have effectively two versions of Tenzig Manager available to suit different use cases. It's included free with PeakOS. You can take either a Windows version, which goes onto an existing Windows VM, and we also have a Linux-based virtual appliance. But the concept of the two is very much the same. It enables automation, so we can set up automation rules to automate both the initial deployment as well as the ongoing configuration and management. We can install add-ons to the OS. So again, the three that we've talked about, as well as LeoStream, can be easily updated very easily through the Tenzig Manager. And it's really there to perform simplified deployment, again, making things much easier than if you're using an equivalent PC or laptop. Security goes hand in hand, again, with both the operating system and the Tenzig Manager. So we probably haven't really got time to delve into that a lot in this particular session. But if you look at some of the recent PR that you've seen come from Tenzig's way, a good example is our recent new release of the Tenzig OS or PeakOS in 16.6, where we've done a number of things on the security space there, and they're tied together with the Tenzig Manager as well. And that is all important in, again, going back to the industries that we talked about, where security is more critical and more important than ever, and that becomes very much a forefront of what we do, in addition to the other things that we talked about today. And I think the final thing just to touch on is with PeakOS is the importance of us supporting multiple remote display technologies together, so that, again, we're not just putting our eggs in one particular basket and assuming that every customer is going to want to opt towards that, but offering multiple remote display technologies, so that whether it's within the POC or even in runtime or between different teams and different departments, we can offer multiple technologies effectively out of one solution. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you touched on security, because I was going to ask you about that if you hadn't, because that's definitely something that we hear a lot of people ask about, is how do they secure their endpoint devices? And I think a nice lockdown Linux operating system like PeakOS combined with your hardware solutions are a really great way to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, this is fabulous. I thank you for joining me. I am really excited to see where this partnership goes in the future, because I think we both have this same message of allowing users and customers to choose their own adventure, essentially, and make sure that they get the right technologies in hand that allow their users to be productive, while maybe even allowing organizations to save money. We do have a new, I'm warning you now, we have a new LeoStream client coming out that'll be even better on those PeakOS devices, so you can keep an eye out for that.
And look forward to that.
If you wanted to leave people with one last thought about Tenzig, what would it be?
I think it goes hand in hand with Tenzig and LeoStream, actually. That I think the thing that's really benefited us both through this current kind of era and section that we're in is that we both can orchestrate across different multiple protocols, and ultimately not forcing customers into one particular ecosystem. And from our perspective specifically, whilst we're looking at those three solutions to plug those in, what makes it really easy is being able to plug those in easily to LeoStream from a connectivity and brokering perspective. And also, you touched on it at the start that we've had a relationship since 2009, but that relationship that we have is fantastic. The fact that you are at the end of the phone or Teams, and we can speak to you on a regular basis to get up to date on the technology, as well as work through any sort of development points. So that goes hand in hand. And I think from Tenzig's perspective, we can offer that flexibility from the endpoint perspective, and we're not just confined to either the Linux OS or Windows OS. And if it comes to working with Tenzig, if the customer journey comes through LeoStream, I guess the value add that Tenzig can bring is that we work just beyond the endpoint. So this is our sole focus in terms of remoting technology. We do offer both the hardware and software. So we offer the thin clients as well as the operating system that either runs on top of our own hardware or PCs and laptops. And just having that agnostic approach and flexibility to listen to a customer, understand the industry, understand the user requirements, to be able to help be a guide and steer into not just the right technology, but the right sort of settings and configuration to ultimately provide a great end-to-end solution, and hopefully together jointly with LeoStream as well.
Sounds perfect. Well, again, thank you very much for joining me. Again, this is Kevin Greenway, the
thanks for having
CTO
me.
from Tenzig, and I look forward to what
Thanks
the
for
future
having me,
brings.
Karen.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very
Take care.
much. See you.